Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Anya. I guess you were working with Bob yesterday. So actually, I just wanted to do a little bit of a review today. If there's anything that you don't understand, Reggie's going to help me to translate, just in case I speak too quickly or maybe it's not clear. So I just wanted to review some of the concepts that were covered yesterday. And the first thing that we looked at was completeness. So actually, I just wanted to show you some things. If you're logged in to ASDK, and you click on this box right here, in the data quality, the first dashboard, what I've done is I've added the definition of completeness for you. And there's a small button called Show More. It's very small. It's in English, but maybe I can ask Bertie to translate. Maybe you can just read the definition.
Ya, jadi di sini Nick akan mereview sedikit terkait completeness di dashboard. Yang seperti Bapak Ibu bisa lihat di atas sebelah kanan atas itu ada button interpretasi. Jadi ketika diklik dan sudah berwarna biru, maka di bawah akan muncul definisi dari grafik tersebut. Nah, Bapak Ibu tadi bisa ngeklik show more atau deskripsi lanjutan dari definisi yang sudah dibuatkan. Memang ini berbahasa Inggris dan sudah dituliskan dengan sangat jelas oleh Nick bahwa grafik tersebut merupakan grafik completeness dari report yang disubmit, yang dikirimkan, kemudian dibagikan dengan jumlah report yang diharapkan, kemudian dipresentasikan dalam bentuk persentase seperti itu.
So yesterday when you were reviewing this graph, you noticed that there's some challenges with the completeness of some of the data in ASDK, particularly for the most recent periods. So the last 3 months, for example. And this is true in immunization, COMDAT, we saw it in KESCA as well, where there's a delay in report. So when this happens, how does it affect your ability to analyze the data? Do you guys remember?
Mungkin Bapak Ibu bisa mengingat kemarin kita juga sudah membahas terkait pelaporan, salah satunya adalah COMDAT KESGA, kemudian data imunisasi. Kita bisa menganalisis datanya. Terlebih lagi kita kemarin mengambil data per 3 bulan. Salah satu tantangan yang kita hadapi bersama adalah bahwa data yang ditampilkan ada beberapa yang cenderung menurun, ada yang naik, outlier, dikarenakan delay atau penundaan lambat dalam report seperti itu.
So do you guys remember at all how this would affect your ability? If I'm now looking, let's say for example, just looking at the immunization completeness.
Kita lihat imunisasi completeness.
And I notice this drop for the last 3 months. And then I go to review immunization data. How does this completeness affect my ability to review the most recent immunization data?
Bagaimana kelengkapan data itu memberikan efek terhadap analisis kita terhadap data imunisasi yang di depan?
What do you guys think?
Apa yang Bapak Ibu pikirkan?
Anyone have any comments, or you want me to answer?
Jadi bagaimana Bapak Ibu?
Should I answer? It's okay. Okay. So when we see this, what we'll notice in our data is the same pattern. We'll notice a drop in our data. And this means we can't make actually any conclusions about the coverage, or about the amount of doses given, or about anything that we collect in this immunization data set until much later on. Because there is a delay in reporting, all our other values will also be dropping. So we have to wait until much later on to make changes to our health system or to make any rational decisions about delivery of immunization services.
Oke, jadi sama seperti pembahasan kita yang kemarin ya Bapak Ibu, bahwa sebenarnya data itu memiliki pola yang kurang lebih sama. Jadi ada yang drop, kemudian ada juga yang naik secara signifikan. Nah, hal yang bisa kita lakukan adalah kita menganalisis kenapa, dan ternyata kebanyakan data adalah karena lambat dari reporting tadi, hingga untuk mendapatkan data yang sebenarnya kita harus menunggu beberapa bulan seterusnya.
Okay. Another type of chart that you reviewed yesterday was DQ03A. Okay, if you scroll down. This was also looking at now consistency of the data, of actual data. So this has all kinds of data related to maternal and child health from ComDev. Okay. And there were two types of consistency that we were looking at here. Does anyone remember what they were?
Jadi ada dua tipe konsistensi dari data. Data yang di depan merupakan data elemen terkait kesehatan ibu dan anak dari ComDev. Kira-kira ada yang mengingat apa itu dua tipe konsistensinya? Internal consistency and external consistency.
So actually, we're not evaluating external consistency. So maybe we should go back to the presentation real quick. So do you guys remember? Okay, what's internal consistency? Let's start there. Do you guys remember?
They said they compare the data within the years. Two years back.
Okay, these are very important to understand correctly, so I think we just want to review what these terms are. Were you going to show us yesterday?
Kemarin sudah dilihatkan paparan yang ini? Belum, tidak? No.
They weren't shown this yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're looking at data quality, there are four main characteristics that we are reviewing. Okay? One is the completeness and the timeliness of the data. And that's what we looked at in the very first chart. Right? So,
Jadi ada 4 tipe dari data quality. Yang pertama itu adalah completeness dan timeliness data, yang seperti sudah kita lihat pertama di dashboard tadi.
so when we looked, so this chart, for example, is looking at data completeness, and we can also look at timeliness because we can see the most recent reports.
Jadi kita bisa melihat completeness datanya dan timeliness karena kita bisa melihat datanya kapan periodenya.
And as we discussed, this affects our ability to analyze recent data and make any meaningful conclusion.
Dan ini juga berefek pada cara kita menganalisis data terkini.
So the second aspect is internal consistency. Okay?
Yang kedua adalah konsistensi internal.
There are two components of internal consistency, and it's not necessarily to do with the time period. Okay? So there's consistency over time, as well as consistency between related data. Okay, these are the two aspects of consistency, and I will explain them using the chart.
Jadi untuk internal konsistensi tidak mutlak terkait waktunya, tapi di sini ada dua hal, yaitu yang pertama dari segi waktu, dan yang kedua antar indikatornya. Contoh dari bulan ke bulan, tahun ke tahun.
I'm going to use this chart, DQ03, okay, to explain these two concepts. Okay. So when I talk about consistency from month to month, or from quarter to quarter, or from year to year, what we're looking at is the variation of data between different periods, the same indicator or data.
Saat kita melihat intrakonsistensi dari waktu ke waktu, kita bisa melihat data yang sama, data elemen yang sama, tetapi dari periode yang berbeda.
So when I say that, I'm only talking about, let's just look at one indicator, okay? This is K1.
Kita hanya melihat satu indikator, yaitu K1.
And what we're going to look at first is the month to month or period to period consistency.
Jadi yang kita lihat adalah konsistensi dari bulan ke bulan atau periode ke periode.
What we're looking at is the values and how they change over time.
Yang kita lihat adalah nilai dari datanya yang berubah dari waktu ke waktu.
And what our assumption is with our data is that it's not going to change very much from month to month.
Sebenarnya datanya juga tidak banyak berubah dari bulan ke bulan.
So you can see here, though there are some big variations in the data. It goes up here, and then down, and it's kind of up and down and up and down. So we would say that this is not internally consistent.
Jadi dari data yang di depan, kita melihat ada data yang naik, kemudian turun lagi. Jadi seperti itu polanya sampai akhir, maka tidak bisa kita bilang bahwa data ini secara internal konsistensi sudah konsisten.
Is that okay? Is that clear? So for example, we see this big value here, right? It's very obvious that there's a big jump in our data. Right? So when we see these values, and we know it's not internally consistent, then we have to find out why.
Ketika kita melihat datanya sudah naik secara signifikan seperti itu, kita tahu bahwa data ini tidak konsistensi secara internal, maka hal itu yang bisa kita analisis tentunya.
So in order to do this, we would do some kind of investigation. We might look at the raw data that's collected from the facility or the district and try to see why this is from.
Kita juga bisa melihat dari segi raw data yang berada di sumber aplikasinya, kenapa datanya itu bisa tinggi seperti itu.
And what's the problem here is, so this value is for May 2016. Okay? So what happens if I look at the K1 value for the year 2016 in Indonesia? What do you think?
Jadi apa yang Bapak Ibu pikirkan ketika melihat data dari K1 di tahun 2016? Ada yang mau menyampaikan sedikit pendapatnya, Bapak Ibu? Wrong input.
So it's probably the wrong input, but because it hasn't been fixed, you will also get the wrong output for 2016, right? If I try to count all the K1 values for that year, it will be wrong, right? Because this is not correct.
Kalau misalnya datanya tidak diperbaiki, maka outputnya juga akan menjadi salah. Ketika kita menjumlahkan semua datanya di tahun 2016, akan menghasilkan output yang salah.
So this is why we look at consistency before we analyze the data.
Jadi kita melihat konsistensi datanya terlebih dahulu sebelum kita menganalisa datanya.
Because if there's something wrong with the data, then when we go to review it, we can't make any good conclusion.
Ketika kita memiliki data yang tidak konsisten juga, kita susah mendapatkan analisa yang tepat.
So is this okay? So, are there any questions about this?
Ada pertanyaan Bapak Ibu? She said it's a bit difficult if we have to see the 2016 data in the source, the application. So is it okay if we didn't include the 2016 data for analyzing matter?
I mean, it depends on what you need. If you need to analyze some data, some trend over time, then this should be fixed.
Kalau seandainya Ibu mau melihat data tren, maka tahun 2016 juga perlu diperbaiki datanya.
But
itu tergantung kebutuhan atau tergantung tujuan dari setiap bidang yang dipegang. Kalau misalnya memang yang lama sudah nggak bisa diedit, berarti nggak apa-apa. Cuma maksudnya itu kan agak sulit juga kan, kalau kita harus nge-drill ke bawah sampai harus ngecek kabupaten kota, ngecek sampai puskesmas, itu effort yang besar. Jadi kalau memang sulit, ya berarti kalau di kami di per satu kabupaten kota itu cuma 3 kabupaten kota. Waktu kita bikin data trend seperti ini, ditemui ternyata ada sekitar 350 kasus gizi buruk di Kota Tomohon. Yang jelas-jelas Kota Tomohon setiap puskesmas itu selalu nomor 1 untuk obesitas. Dapat gizi buruk hampir 400 waktu itu, 359 itu terjadi tahun 2016. Nah, dari Kota Tomohon mereka memperbaikinya langsung ke Komda. Iya bisa. Waktu itu katanya diperbaiki di Komda Tengah, seperti apa? Katanya diperbaiki. Jadi di sini sudah kelihatan sudah diperbaiki. Jadi tergantung, kalau misalnya bisa diperbaiki, kenapa tidak diperbaiki? Kalau nggak bisa, untuk effort ya makanya tergantung kebutuhan sebenarnya tujuannya. Kalau analisis data sampai tahun 2016, otomatis kita harus memperbaikinya. Sebenarnya kembali lagi ke kebijakan sih. Kalau kementerian mengatakan bahwa saya di CEO, ya kalau misalnya kementerian mengatakan bahwa datanya harus bagus, otomatis kita harus memperbaiki. Nah itu kan tanggung jawab kita juga kan sebenarnya untuk data yang baik, seperti itu. Iya agak sulit. Itu 300-an itu gizi buruk yang di Kota Tomohon, kita harus ngedrill sampai puskesmas. Nah, puskesmas mana yang laporin sampai 300-an? Seperti itu. Agak sulit, betul agak sulit. Tapi bisa. Seperti itu.
Thank you. Those are very good points about the difficulty of fixing this data. At least we know there's a problem. So when we interpret the data, we need to keep this in mind. It's hard to actually fix the data. This might be very time-consuming, very challenging. But we know there's a problem, and we always need to think about this when we're interpreting the actual data.
Jadi mungkin memang ini adalah suatu tantangan dan kendala juga untuk menganalisa ketika ada data yang memang susah untuk didapatkan dari tahun-tahun sebelumnya, Bu. Namun juga kalau misalnya kebutuhannya tergantung lagi kembali ke kebijakan. Kalau seandainya memang data 2016 contohnya ini memang dibutuhkan, kita bisa searching dan drill down kabupaten mana nih yang sebenarnya menimbulkan angka yang seperti itu, sehingga bisa kita telusuri lagi di aplikasi sumber.
Okay. The other type of internal consistency that we were evaluating is the consistency between related indicators.
Jadi untuk tipe internal konsistensi yang kedua adalah konsistensi antar indikator yang berkaitan.
So as an example, I have K1 or ANC1, K4 or ANC4 on the same chart. And what I'm trying to see is if they're very different or if they're similar, because they are related. Mother, typically you don't have more ANC4 than ANC typically, especially over a year, because mothers drop off.
Ya, jadi untuk data yang di depan kita mencoba untuk membedakan, compare. Di sini ada dua data elemen, yaitu kunjungan K1 dan kunjungan K4. Sebenarnya dua data elemen ini lebih kurang yang berbeda, tetapi mereka saling berkaitan sehingga kita bisa melihat di mana data yang drop out seperti itu.
So I've just added one more indicator. This is the ECG. Okay. And we can make two conclusions. One, it's not consistent from month to month because of this very high value. It's also not consistent with the other related indicators for the same reason.
Oke, jadi di sini ada tambahan data elemen satu lagi yaitu BCG. Di sini bisa disimpulkan bahwa dua hal. Yang pertama, tidak konsisten dari waktu ke waktu, dari bulan ke bulan, karena kita bisa melihat data angka yang sangat tinggi pada bulan Januari 2018. Namun dia juga tidak konsisten antar indikatornya, karena kalau dibandingkan dengan dua indikator yang lainnya itu sangat jauh dari yang K1 dan K4. There's question?
Yes.
On the I think the K1 and K4 with the BCG is not correct because the definition of the operational. If you want to compare, maybe you compare with the KN1, the neonatus, visit neonatus, because this KN1 is who's the one the baby can get the facility, okay? Visit, the first visit. With the PCG, with the MPT, it's can compare it, but with K1, K4, I think it's too far. If you want to compare K1, K4 with the labeling facility, it's okay maybe. That's my suggest.
So that's a good point. But if you think about it, what is the expected relationship between K4 and K1?
K1 and K4 is what the maternal get in K1 must be get in K4,
So
but not BCG. It's different target.
yes. But K4 is typically going to be less than K1, correct?
Yes.
So that's an expected relationship that we already understand.
Yes.
So we can verify this by looking at these two indicators together. So if there's an error where K4 is all of a sudden much higher than K1, there's something wrong with the data.
Yes.
Yes. So this is something we can look at with evidence, with quite a great deal of confidence. Yeah. So it's not just about thinking about the service delivery, it's thinking about how the data is related and to try and determine if there's problems with our data based on those assumptions. Okay. So it kind of goes beyond the service delivery aspect.
But I think it's the consistency that with the like must be line straight. But in the K1 and K4, it's the depend like May maybe. Yeah, like you saw May in 2016, it's 939. It's the different. But with the other month, it's not very far.
Yes.
Like I said, it's the big is okay. But if the difference is not too big, it's still consistency because the operational definition like this. This is my opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. So is everyone clear now on these two types of consistency?
Harusnya tak tanya. Saya pakai bahasa Indonesia nih.
Daripada bahasa Inggris hilangnya terlalu banyak. Yang tadi di grafik yang K1 dan K4. Tadi yang K1 kan tinggi grafiknya. Sedangkan kalau kita menelusuri angka K1 tadi yang tinggi itu, bisa tak kita secara kebijakan nanti kita menelusuri K1 kan effortnya terlalu tinggi. Sedangkan K4 nya kita sudah dapat. Nah, sehingga secara kebijakan kita mengambil angka yang mendekati K4. Itu saja yang pertama. Ya, kemudian yang kedua, tadi kalau menurut saya tidak bisa dibandingkan itu antara K1, K4, kemudian imunisasi. Ini sasaran jelas berbeda. Mungkin begitu. Terima kasih.
Okay, Nick, from the graph that you showed before, that the number K1, the highest one on May 2016, okay, there's a policy that said we have the K4 number, right? So we can take the data of K1 that close to K4. Yeah. So there's like a policy there. And then the second one, he said that it is uncomparable between K4, K1, and immunization data. So because the target is different, so maybe you can have another comparable indicators somehow like that. Ada lagi, Pak?
Okay, we're looking at the internal consistency of the numerator value alone. Are these services related or not? Okay, that's how we're thinking about it. There's an eventual relationship between ANC1, or K1, K4, BCG doses. Okay? There's a cascade associated with this data. Right? They're all related in some way, statistically speaking. Okay? Not just from a policy or program perspective. If you just look at the data, right, themselves, there's an expected relationship between these different indicators.
Jadi sebenarnya yang mau disampaikan Nick adalah bahwa ini tidak hanya terkait dengan kebijakan atau program, tapi di antara indikator yang tadi disampaikan K1, K4 dan imunisasi, mereka memiliki keterkaitan dalam segi numerator. Maka dari itu di sini kita mencoba menganalisa tiga indikator tersebut yang terkait internal konsistensi seperti itu.
We're not comparing coverage. We're not comparing any type of indicator calculation. We're just looking at the numerators themselves, right?
Ya, jadi kita tidak memperbandingkan dari indikator-indikator ini, tapi kita hanya membandingkan numeratornya, seperti itu.
And we know that there's an expected relationship where one will typically be higher than the next one, right? So there's a cascade where typically K1 will be higher than K4, okay? And then K4 will probably be a little bit higher than BCG in most cases. This is our expected relationship.
Jadi ada hubungan yang sebenarnya diharapkan seperti K1 dan K4, apakah K1 itu lebih tinggi nilainya dari K4 atau sebaliknya. Nah, hal inilah yang perlu kita analisa bersama seperti itu.
But the main idea though, okay, we have a lot of services here, but the main idea is that we don't want to see this, right? This really high jump in the data. If you look at all the other data, it's pretty close, right? But then there's these big jumps. And this is really what we're looking for. Okay, so just ignore all the other stuff. But what we're really looking for are these big jumps in our data.
Jadi sebenarnya yang kita menjadi perhatian kita bersama adalah bukan data yang bisa dibilang relatif landai seperti itu, karena itu datanya sudah cukup bagus, konsisten, tapi yang perlu kita perhatikan adalah dua titik yang menjadi outlier di depan yang memiliki angka kenaikan yang cukup signifikan.
Because there's evidence here that they are related. This is your data. And you can see how close all of these values are. So there's an obvious relationship, but there's an obvious problem too, right? At some points in time. And that's what we need to check and verify.
Jadi di antara indikator yang disandingkan bersama ini, kita bisa melihat bahwa value-nya juga tidak terlalu jauh. Maka dari itu kita melihat relationship yang berkaitan. Nah, yang jadi perhatian adalah dua titik tersebut.
Is this helping, or is this any more clear, or still more questions?
So, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
The question is why?
Why?
Why is the same that the different target, different?
So why are they consistent with it?
My question is why?
Okay, that's a good
I'm amazing.
yes. It's a good question. Okay, so his question is, why are all these services, why are they so consistent with one another? Okay, and you know, why are they're almost similar, right? They're very similar. So when we're looking at a program, we have an expected relationship between related data. Okay? Like I said, ignore the service characteristics, ignore the actual coverage calculations. What we're looking at are just the numerators. As mothers come for more and more services over time, we kind of start with ANC1 as our baseline. Okay? We'll capture the most amount of mothers during ANC1. This will slowly decrease, but they'll be related. There shouldn't be a huge drop-off where, you know, from ANC1 to maybe BCG, you lose like 100,000 mothers, right? It doesn't happen typically, right? So they're so close together because this is a cascade of services, right? We deliver all these different services to the same mother. She will come for K1. She will come for K4. She will bring her baby for her BCG vaccination. She will bring her baby for her MR vaccination. Okay? Same person. So we don't lose a ton of mothers, right? If we do, then there's a big problem with our health services. We're not able to give our mothers the services they need, and that's a big problem. Okay? Sorry, that was a lot.
Okay, so there's one more question.
Ini sebetulnya pertanyaannya ditujukan kepada kita bersama yang tim Pusdatin dan pengelola program KIA. Jadi ini terus terang saya masih ambigu dengan data K1 K4. Di sini yang pertama saya ingin tanya apakah ini datanya kumulatif atau bukan, satu. Terus yang kedua, ini data berjalan atau data by sasaran. Kalau data berjalan, maka K1 itu tidak harus lebih besar dari K4 kalau data berjalan. Jadi misalnya di Januari ada 5 K1, boleh saja K4-nya ada 10 misalnya. Kalau data berjalan itu no problem. Tidak harus K4 itu lebih kecil daripada K1. Terus yang kedua, kalau datanya itu by sasaran, maka setelah bulan April itu sudah tidak ada lagi K1 karena akan dihitung di sasaran tahun berikutnya. Sementara di sini datanya tuh seperti kumulatif. Kalau kumulatif itu berarti kan seperti mengacu pada sasaran. Harusnya K1-nya stagnan mulai bulan Mei ke sini itu tidak ada lagi K1. Karena langsung yang naik terus itu K4-nya. Jadi data ini dari sudut pandang manapun saya merasa rancu gitu. Ini mau pakai data sasaran atau data berjalan? Itu terima kasih.
Yeah, 3 questions. Okay, the first one, she wanna ask the maternal and children health and Pusdatin as well. Is the data is cumulative or not? It's first, and then the second one, whether the data is the routine data or target, because if the data is routine data, it is not necessary whether the K1 is higher than K4. it's not really necessary. And then the third one, she said that she's quite ambiguous to the data because if the data is by target, so after the April, there is no K1 or Q4 data, something, a K1 after April every year. So it needs to be the next year, the following year. Because the data is by target.
Because of what? Does everyone get pregnant at the same time?
Jadi untuk pertanyaan apakah ini yang digunakan adalah data kumulatif atau data berjalan, sebenarnya ini bukan data kumulatif ibu. Kalau misalnya kumulatif pasti grafiknya juga akan naik terus. Mungkin ya itu, ya kumulatif naik ke atas.
Bisa saya bantu jawab? Iya, pertanyaannya kan tadi kan K1 itu tidak bisa lebih besar dari K4. Ya, itu make sense, benar, masuk akal juga. Karena jika per bulan itu, kalau dihitung ya, misalnya ya, Ibu A itu K1-nya itu dia di bulan Januari, tapi dia baru dapat kayak K4-nya itu mungkin di bulan September, mungkin ya, karena kan dia triwulan ketiga kan. Itu yang ketiga gitu kan, seperti itu gitu kan. Sama juga tadi yang dibilang bahwa K1 itu bisa, K4 itu bisa lebih besar ya, mungkin kalau di level puskesmas ya. Tapi jika sudah di level Indonesia dengan data yang sudah diakumulasi per Indonesia, itu kemungkinannya kecil kalau menurut saya. Secara ini tuh kayaknya kemungkinan kecil, karena yang namanya K1 itu pasti akan lebih besar untuk penerimaannya gitu, karena K1 itu kan adalah akses pertama kepada ibu hamil. Untuk tadi dibilang sampai bulan April atau bulan Mei K1 berhenti, nanti seterusannya itu K4 enggak kalau menurut saya, karena ibu hamil itu tetap bisa hamil di bulan kapan aja. Dia bisa datang di triwulan kedua, bisa datang di triwulan ketiga, tapi jika dia baru pertama kali deteksi, baru pertama kali ke pelayanan, itu masih terhitung K1-nya, seperti itu. Jadi istilahnya nggak mungkin juga kalau di bulan Mei nggak ada K1, di bulan Juni nggak ada K1. Lalu apakah ini data kumulatif? Ini saya rasa bukan kumulatif, karena ibu hamil di Indonesia itu kan 5 juta. Kalau saya baca ya, misalnya dari Januari 2017 sampai Desember 2017 itu kan stagnan tuh antara 500.000, 400.000. Jumlah ibu hamil di Indonesia adalah sekitar 5 juta lebih. Jadi akumulasinya sekitar 90%. Dan ini adalah data per bulan. Kalau menurut saya belum lihat data metanya juga sih. Ya kalau itu pendapat saya. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much for that explanation. So, are we a bit more clear now on consistency and why we look at it before we analyze the data? Or still not so sure?
Ini
menentukan indikator yang berdekatan ini bagaimana melihatnya. Kalau ini kan memang sudah jelas ya, kedekatan yang program lain seperti diatrofi itu melihat konsistensi antar dua indikator.
How you guys see the relationship between indicators to see the consistency? You want to go further to that point?
Okay, that's a good question, and I think you also asked about other programs, right? Yeah. Okay, that's a great question. So one of the challenges we have in ASDK now, and this is why on Monday, on yesterday, we had the presentations from the programs. Not all the data is in ASDK, so it's hard to visualize and do some detailed data quality analysis on that information. Okay? So, for example, where we're missing large chunks of the TB and malaria data, we have other programs like HIV, which I can show you, but we are missing a lot of the other programs. So it's hard for us to do this type. But that's why we're showing you what's possible, so we can encourage you to think about getting the data in, so we can do these types of analyses for other programs as well.
Ya, kemarin kita juga sudah presentasi yang orang program ya Bu ya, terkait semua indikator program. Nah, tapi memang di ASDK sendiri belum semua indikator itu sudah masuk. Jadi memang untuk melihat konsistensi antar indikator agak sulit dilakukan. Nah, maka dari itu kita juga perlu fokus bagaimana untuk data-data tersebut bisa masuk dulu ke ASDK agar bisa dianalisis dan visualisasi.
Okay, thank you. What I want to discuss with you that when I see the line graphic, I use my province national data. I use DKI data. And before I was 13 officer, I was immunization program manager. So I have the raw data of the immunization program. So when I see my data, I compare the DPT1 and DPT3, and then the line show nice, only just a minor margin. But when I saw the raw data in sub-district, the what do you call the error or something like that is very big, but the error is like balancing each other when we collect it in a province level. So I'm afraid if I use this line and say, okay, the consistency of our immunization data comparing DPT1 and DPT3 is good. In fact, when the raw data is not like this, so what's the consequences of this analysis? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is an excellent point. Okay? So, maybe Rafi, you can just this question, please.
Jadi sedikit mengulang pertanyaan dari Bapak bahwa apa konsekuensinya jika seandainya kalau kita melihat dari data misalnya provinsinya bagus, tapi ketika melihat ke bawahnya lagi di subdistriknya ternyata ada beberapa margin yang ya agak kurang bagus seperti itu. Nah, apa konsekuensi dari hasil analisisnya seperti itu ya Pak?
So this is a really good question. So typically, when we do this type of analysis, we try to get the lowest level possible. Because when we start, Indonesia is a very large country. So when we start to aggregate by district, province, many data errors will not be shown. So this might not affect decision making at the province, but it will affect decision making at the sub-district level. So what do we do? Well, the challenge is in ASDK, the data is coming in by district. So this is the lowest level we have, but we would like to change this, obviously, and get more granular data. So we want the raw data in the system. Ideally, you have the raw data lower than district level, assessments even, if possible. So you can do this type of detailed analysis. So you can make an informed decision about the data flow, like our colleague has. Because he's found out that it looks okay at the district, but it's really not okay within each subdistrict. And that's the type of thing we need to find out. But this is all the data we have, so these are the only conclusions we can make. But if we have the raw data, which we're going to try to get actually from the immunization program and work with other programs over time, then we can make much more better conclusions.
Maybe you can explain a bit about the consequences if we still analyze the data.
So if I one consequence, it's not so much a consequence at the higher level. Province, for example, if I were to look at the data and it was consistent, for my decision-making purposes in the province, probably won't change too much how I affect what decisions I make for my districts. The problem is at the district, because at the district, I need to make decisions for my sub-districts and processes. And the problem is here, if I'm looking at coverage values, for example, in this case, where DPT3-1 is greater than DPT1, and I make an assumption about fully immunized children, or the amount of, or the coverage for DPT3, okay? I will be calculating something that is incorrect. So maybe I would say at the sub-district, 95% of my children are covered. But this is wrong. Okay? Maybe only 80% of my children are covered. At the provincial level, this doesn't really affect our decision making too much, because the data is aggregated so much. But at the sub-districts and lower, this is going to cause us some problems in hitting our targets.
Jadi pastinya untuk ketika ada kasus yang seperti itu, memang data agregatnya itu lebih baik kalau misalnya kita mengumpulkan data dari level paling bawah, yaitu mungkin fasilitas kesehatan, kemudian ke kabupaten kota. Nah, akan lebih baik jika kita mempunyai raw data dari lowest level, itu sub-district tadi Pak. Kemudian memang untuk kalau kita lihat konsekuensinya, untuk pengambilan keputusan di pusat memang agak tidak begitu terkendala. Namun ketika kita masuk ke kabupaten kota, dia akan mempengaruhi dari pengambilan kebijakan atau keputusan seperti itu yang kata Nick. Kemudian konsekuensinya sebenarnya bisa jadi kita menelusuri juga. Contohnya tadi ada DPT 1, kita bisa katakan bahwa 90% sudah tercakup, tapi sebenarnya di lapangan itu hanya 80%. Nah, ini juga konsekuensinya di subdistrik bahwa harus diinvestigasi lagi datanya, kemudian diintervensi oleh level yang di atas.
Is that better now? Are we starting to understand a bit more why we look at the consistency of the data? Or is it still not so clear? It's okay?
Bagaimana menurut Bu, sebelum kita lanjut ke analisis lagi, apakah ada yang mau disampaikan?
Okay. Okay, good. So before we move on, I just wanted to talk about this external consistency, so I could verify what that means, okay? Because there was some confusion in the morning. Okay. Internal consistency is looking at the data within the program, the routine administrative data that we collect every month or every quarter. or depending on the program. External consistency is when we take our internal administrative data and we compare it with data from another source. So, yes? Oh, yes?
Saya menanyakan terkait tadi, maaf terlambat, jadi untuk tadi melihat dari trendline itu kan kita melihat, oh ini ada pencilan data, ini ada outlier dari segi trendline. Bagaimana kita menghindari subjektivitas, kan terkadang oh menurut saya ini gapnya nggak terlalu tinggi, tidak perlu untuk ditelusuri, tapi menurut orang lain oh ini merupakan gap yang tinggi seperti itu. Bagaimana batasan-batasan how the role-nya untuk kita menentukan bahwa ini adalah data yang tidak bagus seperti itu. Terima kasih.
Okay, next, so the question is, when we see the trend line graph just now, we can see some outliers occurred on the data. So how to prevent the subjective opinions on the data, like this type of data need to be explored more, or the limitation is just stop like that because this data is quite good, or how is the standard? I mean, yeah, how can you say that the data is good or not?
So that's a really good question. So we start with subjective analysis to filter out our data. Because imagine if we have to check every data value in Indonesia, it's just not possible. Okay? So we start with a subjective analysis by making graphs, charts, things like this, to identify potential areas that are problematic. Okay? From there, we would then do this. So do you guys remember this from yesterday? Yeah? Time? This is an outlier analysis, okay? This is where we actually drill down into the data itself and find out which specific data values are causing problems, as well as to what degree are they causing a problem.
Jadi kita bisa melihat kemarin sudah dipelajari juga tentang tools yang ini. Kita bisa melihat yang berwarna merah itu sebenarnya adalah outlier yang terjadi di antara bulan ke bulan.
Did you guys do this yesterday? Yeah. Okay. So we start with the graphs because they're very simple to understand, and they allow us to filter out possible problems, problematic areas that we need to verify then by doing a detailed outlier analysis. So the graphs help us kind of identify where there might be a problem, and then we kind of dive deep into all the individual data values, trying to kind of verify what we saw in the chart, and if it's a problem or not. This allows us.
Untuk grafiknya itu kita bisa melihat sebenarnya kondisi mana yang titik-titik yang aneh tadi, Mbak. Kemudian kita bisa melihat detailannya dari menggunakan tools ini, dan kita bisa melihat detail data sehingga kita bisa memverifikasi datanya kembali gitu.
And this also, like our colleague in the back said, sometimes we have outliers, but they're very small, so we shouldn't focus on fixing them. But sometimes we have very big outliers, and those are the ones we need to focus on fixing.
Jadi untuk data ada dua tipe outlier yang nilainya tidak begitu tinggi, mungkin kita tidak terlalu fokus ke situ, tapi juga ada outlier yang sifatnya datanya sangat tinggi secara signifikan, maka itulah data yang harus kita fokuskan.
Does that help? Okay, thank you.
Itu batasannya 2 kali dari periode sebelumnya.
Is that clear for everyone else? Is that okay? Okay, so I just want to really briefly define external consistency, then we'll move on. Okay, so internal consistency, we're looking at data that we collect. Okay, so if I'm from HIV, TB, malaria, this is the data that I collect using my routine reporting forms. That's internal consistency. Yes. Do you want me to keep on? Okay. External consistency is when we take the data that we routinely collect and compare it with data from another source. So for example, a survey, right? So you collect monthly data or quarterly data depending on your program, and then you would compare this. Maybe you guys have the demographic and health survey, the DHS?
Demographic?
The demographic DHS survey? You guys have that? Okay, so for example, you could compare data from immunization or maternal and child health that you collect routinely with the data that's collected on the paper survey for the demographic and health survey. And that's an external data source that's not done routinely.
Jadi untuk eksternal konsistensi, kita bisa membandingkan dari indikator yang kita koleksi secara rutin dengan data-data eksternal yang sumbernya itu mungkin dari survei contohnya.
And what you're trying to verify is how different the values are. Because what if routinely I report that my immunization coverage for BCG is 80%, and then the DHS survey reports that it's only 60%? We have to find out then, why is the value so different?
Ya, jadi kita bisa melihat contohnya ada data yang kita koleksi secara rutin nilainya 80%, tapi untuk dari source yang lain atau sumber yang lain menyatakan bahwa itu 60%. Nah, ini yang perlu kita telusuri lebih lanjut.
And the closer the values are together, the more consistent. So we're not looking for the values to be exactly the same, but we're looking for them to be close.
Jadi sebenarnya untuk nilai dari datanya kita tidak harus sama dan di antara data yang kita miliki dengan sumber yang di luar, tapi semakin dekat nilainya itu bisa dikatakan konsisten.
So is this okay? Is it clear? Any questions?
Apakah ada pertanyaan, Bapak Ibu?
This is a lot easier to understand, I think. than the other side.
Terkait dengan dua data yang rutin dengan survei ini kan perbedaan berapa sih yang kita anggap sama umpamanya ya dari dua data ini. Kemudian secara kebijakan kita mengambil yang mana di antara dua ini? Apakah kita ya tergantung, kalau kita ingin mencari uang mungkin kita ambil yang tinggi kah atau bagaimana? Itu mungkin.
Okay, so the question is, when we look at the routine data and survey data, how much is the difference that is considered as the same? How much the interval of the data? And the second one, in policy, the better one, which data that we need to use? I mean, whether from our source or from the external source.
Okay, these are very good questions. I'm not sure how I can answer them because I don't know the policy in Indonesia, but I will try my best without you telling me to leave the country. Okay, so the acceptable error, okay, this is something that we would derive before we do this type of analysis. So we would try to maybe say, I think for me, what will be within reason is kind of plus or minus 5%. Okay, this would mean my routine data is very, very strong. Okay? If we were to think about maybe plus or minus 10%, we're starting to veer, kind of having the data be too much different. You know, there's a big difference between 70 and 80% coverage, for example. It's too much, in my opinion. Now, we wouldn't do this just as our colleague asked, well, what is the basis of that? I wouldn't just come up with a number in my head. So I would try to look at all the previous data that I have, just like I do for any type of outlier or consistency analysis, to try and figure out, well what makes sense? So the number is not the same for every country, I would say, because this is something that's decided before this is done. So the country itself will come up with some guidance, or maybe they'll talk to some people and get a recommendation. Okay? But for me personally, when I do this type of analysis, I would consider 5%, plus or minus 5%, kind of within a good range. And then your second question, I don't know, do you need to say the first answer, or is it okay? Yeah, I think it's 5%, right? And the second question, which one do we use? Okay, I don't know, okay? This is dependent on the country once again, okay? What I will say is many international people, if they see the survey data, and it's more accurate, or they think it's more accurate, they will use a survey. Okay? That's not to say the country should use a survey, that's not what I'm saying. Okay? But from the perspective of global health, we would use the survey. Okay? And the reason we do this is because we're confident in the methodology of the survey. Okay? Now, this is a strong reason for strengthening statistics and making the values close. Because if we can demonstrate that our routine statistics are very close to our survey values, every time we do the survey, there's not so much difference. This gives us a lot of confidence in the ability to use our routine data. Okay? We can tell all these people, like me, sitting off in another country to shut up and use the data that we give them. Okay? And this is important for our country, right? To be confident in the ability to use this data. From the country perspective, my guess is in national policy, maybe topic or one of the Pakistani people can correct me, is that you would use the administrative data, right? The problem with survey data, it's only collected every couple of years. It's a very expensive thing to do, right? And the more and more we can use our routine data, the more and more we can review it, we can strengthen it. This leads to a lot of positive outcomes for the country. So I think the obvious choice, in many cases, is to use the routine data where we can. Okay? But, there is obviously some discussion. But in a country to make decisions, when the survey comes out, then this is a good time to use that survey data to verify our routine data. Rather than maybe say, okay, we're just going to use the survey data, what I would do is I would take the survey data, compare it to my routine data, and try to figure out what's going on before I make any decision. So that's my personal approach to this. That's not saying how Indonesia should do things, but that's kind of how I would do it. I don't know if that helps or not.
Oke, jadi Pak, menurut Nick, untuk yang pertanyaan pertama, seberapa banyak perbedaan yang dianggap sama, kurang lebih itu 5%. Kurang lebih 5% dari kedua data yang disandingkan. Kalau misalnya tidak lebih dari 5%, maka masih bisa dianggap konsisten. Tetapi kalau sudah di atas atau lebih kurangnya 10%, itu sudah menimbulkan banyak perbedaan, sehingga itu kita bisa melihat data-data dari tahun lalu yang sudah dikumpulkan, dan kita bisa menelusuri lebih terkait data-data polanya seperti apa. Kemudian untuk pertanyaan yang kedua, kebijakan diambil yang mana nih, data yang rutin kita atau data berdasarkan survei? Sebenarnya menurut Nick lagi, kembali ke negaranya masing-masing. Ada beberapa negara di luar sana menggunakan atau menggunakan data survei karena lebih akurat, dan juga kita sebenarnya melihat metodologi yang digunakan saat melakukan survei tadi. Kalau seandainya data kita itu sudah mendekati nilai dengan survei, sebaiknya kita menggunakan data rutin yang sudah kita kumpulkan, karena dengan menggunakan data rutin kita juga kita dapat mereview data yang kita koleksi, seperti itu.
So any more questions about this before I move on?
Kalau mau kita menghasilkan grafik ini, jadi data kita juga harus terintegrasi dengan data survei ya, ASDK. Apakah kedepannya akan begitu? Jadi kita bisa nggak manual lagi ngerjain untuk menganalisis perbandingan antara data rutin dan survei, karena sekarang kita masih manual.
The question is, to make this graphic, we need the link from the survey data to the ASDK. So, because what we done today is manually.
Yes, that's very good. So, if there is survey data in the country, then ideally, so yeah, that's a very good point. To do this type of analysis, it'd be very nice to actually get survey data that you have in Indonesia into ASDK, so we can do this type of analysis. And that would really help us to verify the data.
Jadi sebenarnya memang perlu juga Bu untuk data survei kita masukkan ke ASDK, jadi bisa menghasilkan grafik untuk eksternal konsistensi seperti ini.